and admitting everybody. We've got a couple more people jumping in the Zoom room right now. All right. Good evening, everybody. I think for many of you that are jumping on here, it may be another time of day, but good evening to those of you on the East Coast. My name is Sarah Dodge. I am the Assistant Director for Orientation and New Student Programs here at the University of Virginia. We are so excited to welcome you to part of our community and to Grounds this summer for orientation, as well as, of course, in the fall when you move in to your dorms. And so this is our first of many Wednesday webinars. Wednesday webinars are some additional transition information for all of you to start to think about some of those places and spaces that you might want to get involved at UVA. Some of our content this summer is going to be academic in nature. Some of our content this summer is going to be about student organizations, Greek life, you know, a lot of different areas that will inform your experience while you're at UVA. And so I want to encourage you all, obviously, to pay good attention tonight to our pre-health advising session, but also to keep an eye going forward on future events. We're actually going to be hosting one of these every Wednesday night at 6:30 from now until you move in to UVA in August. And so keep an eye on the schedule. We'll post really consistently on our Instagram with upcoming webinars, and we'll also be sending emails to students who are maybe of particular interest for the different topics that we're doing. So keep an eye on those things. Again, we're really excited to have you. We've got some more information about orientation itself coming down the pipes to you via email in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye on your UVA inbox. That's going to be where everybody is communicating with you from UVA. But for now, I want to turn it over tonight. Our first session is about pre-health. So pre-health is an umbrella term that we use at UVA for anybody who's interested in a health profession in the future. And so I'm no expert on that, and we've got some great guests today to present to you. So I'll turn it over to the interim director of the Career Center, Kim Sauerwein, to tell you more about all of their work. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Welcome everyone to the pre-health advising webinar. This evening, we're going to provide you an overview of UVA pre-health advising resources and services specifically geared toward prepping you for course registration. And so in addition to this webinar, pre-health advisors will be on hand during orientation course registration, and we will be hosting an in-person session on day 2 of orientation, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So we are just very happy to have you and want to prepare you for a successful fall semester as a pre-health who. And just as a quick poll about who is here, can you add in the chat, direct it to Lauren Corey, add a note, which of the following professions interest you? And now let me see if I can get my slides to advance. There we go. So dentistry, medicine, occupational therapy, optometry, pharmacy, physical therapy, physician assistant, podiatry, and veterinary. I could make a poem about this. It looks like we have some writing on the screen, and so I don't know if that happened from one of our presenters, but there was no reason to scribble out medicine. We are absolutely here for folks who are interested in medicine. But as Sarah mentioned earlier, pre-health is an umbrella term used to describe a variety of clinical health career paths. Clinical health means that you would be going into a profession that is working with patients. Most of our students are working with human patients, but some are working with lots of species for veterinary medicine, and veterinarians are also working with people. So these are a variety of the clinical health paths that our students pursue. And we have advising resources and information for all of them. I'm going to introduce you to the pre-health advisors in just a moment, but I wanted to give you a heads up because at UVA, you have a network of advisors. You have lots of folks who are here to support you in your path. And all of these folks will be giving you good information. You're in a network that that has lots of expertise in lots of different areas. We are specifically focused today on what pre-health advisors can do for you, because pre-health advisors are the folks who've seen hundreds and hundreds of students who've gone before you and seen what works and seen what doesn't work sometimes, and are able to customize our advice to be very specific to your particular situation. So while you might get information about pre-health from an association dean or the dean of students or from your residence life staff or orientation leader, the pre-health advisors are the go-to folks with the most expertise on what it takes to go through the 4 years of being a pre-health who and then go into your health profession of choice. So this is our pre-health advising team. And interestingly, today they are at a conference in Denver with pre-health advisors from across the nation. There are thousands of pre-health advisors, actually. We have 3 at UVA. Most schools just have 1. And so because they're at a conference, Lauren Corey and Lauren has been our graduate intern in pre-health advising for the last year. And I have been a pre-health advisor at UVA and a couple of other schools over the last 20 years. And so I work closely with the pre-health advising staff, but I also work with all of the advisors in the UVA Career Center. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself? And then our colleague Ishita will introduce herself as the pre-health advising fellow. Lauren?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So as Kim mentioned, I was the graduate assistant with the pre-health advising team this past year. And now I have transitioned into a summer role with the UVA Career Center as the executive assistant and career fellow.
Thanks. And do we have Ishita?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm on call. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my name is Ishita Mahajan, and I'll be the pre-health advising fellow for the upcoming academic year. I just recently graduated from UVA this past May, and I majored in biology and double minored in bioethics and psychology. I'm super excited to be working with pre-health advising and hopefully with all of you super soon. So yeah, it's great to say hi to everyone.
Thanks so much. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lauren to get us started on what we're talking about today and the scope of pre-health advising.
Thanks, Kim. So in this webinar, really our main goal is to prepare you all for your course registration during orientation. So as Kim mentioned before, we'll have pre-health advisors at the orientation sessions for advising to answer any questions that you may have about health profession prerequisites. And throughout the presentation, you'll see that we have QR codes for signups for our newsletter. So we highly recommend that you sign up for a newsletter to stay involved and connected with us. And here we have really what is the foundational model for a pre-health advising. So it contains 3 essential components that prepare you for your success in your application process to a health profession program. So initially you see that there's an interest. So an interest represents a student who is pursuing a health profession who demonstrates interest in that profession. And then from the interest, there are 3 main areas of development that students need to complete to be successful. So 1, we have academic, which includes demonstration of a strong academic performance through prerequisite coursework, GPA, entrance exams, letters of recommendation. Then secondly, we have the career pillar, which includes your understanding of your chosen career field, including clinical experiences, knowledge of the profession, interaction with patients, and intentional career exploration through shadowing and clinical exposure. Finally, we have the personal pillar, which is representing of your life experience, personal growth, self-awareness, resiliency, service orientation, cultural competence, integrity, really what makes you you and why you are a fit for your health profession of choice. So combine these areas of development lead to your acceptance into a particular health profession program. And now we're going to highlight what the academic components are that are essential to consider starting in your first semester as a WHO. So really, pre-health is not a major, it's a track at UVA. And what this means is, in addition to pursuing your career path in clinical health, you will also need to major in a particular discipline at UVA. So to graduate, and then health professional programs require particular prereq courses for your admission, but they don't really have a preference on major, so you really can major in anything. You know, bachelor's of arts, bachelor's of science. They really don't care whichever you major in, but you should select a major that you really enjoy and will display strong academic performance for you individually. And so in the next slide, we're going to go through the list of potential majors that you can have as on the pre-health track. So really there's all sorts of majors. You have anthropology, you have chemistry, biology, English, you name it, pre-health students have majored in it. And so really what this shows is like you can choose a variety of different disciplines to major in. So yeah, just keeping that in mind when you're selecting your major and confirming that major in your second year.
Thanks, Lauren. So we're going to start talking about prerequisites, and you might want to have some paper close by, have your phone close by. We have a couple of QR codes to check out. And we're also going to put something into the chat if we're able. So let's check and make sure we're able to, Lauren, but we have a document that you might want to save to your device so that you can refer back to it as you plan for your first semester courses. So we want to make sure that you have access. The QR code on the screen right now is a link to all of the various health professions and the prerequisites expected in these various health professions. So you can refer back to our website at any time. You can keep the document that Lauren put in the chat as a reference for course advising, and we'll also have copies of the handout available at orientation. In thinking about your first semester of pre-health coursework, these are the most common prerequisites that you'll see for both medical school and other health professions. And I'm going to ask you, and this is not always going to be easy for high achieving planners like UVA students tend to be, don't worry about all 4 years right now. So we are going to advise you, pre-health advisors are here for you. They're going to talk you through your first semester. And then once you're at UVA, you can meet with a pre-health advisor and they can map out all 4 years of prerequisites specific to your profession of interest. Will include if you decide you want to study abroad or take an internship, that kind of thing. The pre-health advisors are going to help you through that 4-year plan. But for today and for orientation, we're really going to focus on the first semester. Let's see, moving forward. So this is an outline of possible considerations for a first semester student to use as they pursue the health professions. So the 3 discipline considerations we recommend are the sciences, behavioral sciences, and math. So you'll see for science, based on the previous data that we've had for successful applicants to medical school and other health professions, most students actually start off their very first semester with 1 lab course in science, either biology or chemistry. So typically, students will take chemistry in their first semester because chemistry includes a 5-semester sequence of chemistry 1, chemistry 2, organic chemistry 1, organic chemistry 2, and then biochemistry. But some students will start out or more comfortable with biology in their very first semester. And as you see on the screen, the biology department really likes to see biology in the very first semester. You can still be a biology major even if you don't choose biology in your very first semester, but that is their preference. As we've mentioned, both chemistry and biology courses are prerequisites for upper level coursework in the sciences. And so that just will get you off to a great start. And the reason that we recommend just taking one at a time, just one in your very first semester, is because you have so many other things that you're learning in your very first semester at UVA. And so whether it's you're learning where to do laundry, where you want to eat on a regular basis, how to meet friends, how to study for UVA courses, which may be different from how you studied for high school courses. We know that most UVA students will be able to handle 2 lab sciences during the same semester in the future. But in your very first semester, we've seen most successful applicants have only taken 1. And just as an FYI, we are going to have some additional Q&A at the end of this session. So if you have more questions, go ahead and write them down. We'll be ready for you. In addition to taking that 1 science lab course, either chemistry or biology, you might consider taking those topics come up on entrance exams for health professional schools, like the MCAT exam. And for math, consider taking calculus or statistics. None of those, psychology, sociology, calculus, or statistics, is required in your first semester for the pre-health path, but those are some that pre-health students like to take early on. So keep in mind that there could be various combinations based on your college or based on your major. And in the document that Lauren dropped in the chat, there's some considerations for folks who are majoring, who are going to be in the education school or in the engineering school. So that is a starting place for thinking about your very first semester. But a number of you may be thinking about AP classes that you've taken or dual enrollment. And I want to give you some information on those and IB as well. So for advanced placement, health professional programs vary on whether they accept AP credit as a completion of a prerequisite requirement. So if the schools accept the credit, they tend to recommend completing upper level coursework in the same discipline at the university level. That is to say, if you have credit for chemistry 1, you may take an additional chemistry later on in your UVA experience, one beyond the prerequisite coursework. Some students will decide to retake science courses for which they've already earned AP credit in order to prepare for upper level coursework at UVA or to prepare for a future entrance exam that require a greater understanding of the material. It is okay to do that. Many students will say, I really want to get off to a good start. Even though I have credit for AP chemistry, I'm going to go ahead and take chemistry 1 to really make sure that I have a strong foundation in the sciences at UVA. But an important thing to consider if you choose to do that is that you will not get credit for both AP and for a course of the same topic. So if you have AP credit for chemistry 1 and you choose to take chemistry 1, that class replaces the AP credit rather than doubles the AP credit. Okay. Dual enrollment looks a little bit different because dual enrollment you actually have a transcript for. So health professional programs will also vary on whether they accept dual enrollment credit. However, more tend to accept dual enrollment because you have taken it at an institution that has a college transcript. So most schools will consider dual enrollment, especially if you obtained a B or higher in the course. Some students, again, may choose to retake science coursework even if they've already received dual enrollment in order to prepare for upper level coursework or to prepare for future entrance exams. Again, also, if you retake a course that you received dual enrollment credit for, you will no longer receive the dual enrollment credit to fulfill graduation requirements. So we encourage you to complete upper level coursework in any discipline that you have achieved either AP, IB, or dual enrollment credit. For IB, things look a little bit different, and so that's student specific, and we highly recommend that you meet with a pre-health advisor early on with a transcript from your IB experience. But for the most part, we treat AP, IB, and DE pretty similar. And we will answer more questions about that toward the end of the seminar, the webinar. So I'm going to hand it back over to Lauren to talk a little bit about the timeline.
Thank you, Kim. So to provide perspective, 81% of our successful applicants to allopathic or MD medical school in the last 3 cycles took 1 or more bridge years. And you can see this from the image that we have provided on the slide. This is a comparable trend with our other health professions. And thinking of medicine, even related to 10 years ago, applicants have more steps to go through to get to their application. And so that's why bridge year or multiple bridge years is becoming more and more common. And here we have a really fun graphic that the pre-health advising team created, which represents the most typical pathways for pre-health students at UVA. So you will see that there are multiple touch points or reminders in blue that represent the academic pillar and activities associated with that pillar. And then the pink touch points on this path are clinical and experiential activities, which help in career development throughout your 4 years at UVA. And finally, the green touch points represent personal reflection and activities which will strengthen and deepen your ultimate health profession application. You'll note that the paths diverge in the 4th year. Most will choose a strategic bridge year experience, but some will apply after their 3rd year. And so really what you choose to do is personal to you and your journey towards pre-health and pre-health. And so really this image illustrates the common 4-year experience for UVA students.
And Lauren, I'm just going to jump in and remind folks that this really mirrors the pillars that Lauren explained earlier: academic, career, and personal. We will have touch points for all 3 of those pillars as we go through the 4 years. And we highly recommend that students engage with a pre-health advisor at least once a year, if not once a semester, while they're at UVA, just to check in.
Thanks, Kim. And so you might be wondering, okay, why are we talking about letters of recommendation? It's only, you're not even into your 1st year. So really we debated whether we wanted to include this slide in this webinar, but really getting good letters of recommendation are one of the biggest blind spots for applicants to health profession programs. So really the earlier you can start, building those connections with faculty members, the better, because that, means that you'll have more of a likelihood of getting a good letter of recommendation to aid you in your candidacy for health profession schools. So many students wish that they had started developing relationships with faculty earlier. So don't be one of those students. So really just, attending office hours, sitting in the front of the class, asking questions in the lecture, and arriving early and staying late in class to talk with your professor are ways that you can really build that relationship with them.
All right, so we're going to talk about some resources. Next steps, I'm going to take you to a slide where you can sign up to be part of the newsletter. And then Lauren and I are going to take some questions from there. But pre-health advisors offer appointments. They are 30 minutes. They are offered Monday through Friday year round, except when our pre-health advisors are at a conference out of town. We offer both virtual and in person, and we also have drop-in hours in Clemens Library on the 2nd floor, Monday through Thursday, anytime classes are in session. So we're recommending that you browse the pre-health website. We are going to be going through a website revamp in the next semester. And so you may see some changes along the way. We're going to make it prettier than currently. It has a lot of great information, but it's a little bit tough to get through. It's a lot of words. But we're going to continue to provide the right good information. It will be the right information. I don't know why it sounded judgy for me to say that, but we also recommend, for up-to-date information, sign up for the Pre-Health Pulse newsletter, which is coming in the next slide. And that's how we know you're out there. So we usually have a couple of thousands of students who who sign up each year, and we provide just-in-time information on opportunities and engagements and information that's helpful for pre-health students. So everything from signing up for courses to clinical opportunities, internships and research opportunities during the summer, bridge year experiences, part-time jobs that students are, we have a great relationship with the UVA health system where we actually help facilitate student jobs going into actually working in the hospital. So highly recommend that. We will start taking new student appointments as early as August, but we ask that you go ahead and go through orientation first before scheduling an appointment with a pre-health advisor, but you can schedule in August. During the orientation session, you'll be able to sign up for a certain number of courses. And then in August, it opens up where you can sign up for additional courses or change your courses if you decide that you'd like to change the courses that you're signed up for. And we support students throughout that process. So I'm going to move to our next page, QR code. This will take you to a Qualtrics survey where your name will be added to the Pre-Health Pulse newsletter. We are going to do that by hand based on the responses we get back from this webinar. And so it'll be a week or so before you will start receiving the pre-health newsletter. I believe it is happening once every 2 weeks during the summer, but it will be every week during the semester. So if you haven't already signed up, please take the time to do so by using the QR code right here. And if you are unable to use the QR code, we can give you a little tutorial on how to sign up through Handshake. And Handshake is our online career center portal, which is also helps us facilitate our newsletter signups. All right, so put your questions in the chat for Lauren, and Lauren is going to use the information that you put in there to prompt me with some questions.
Awesome. So throughout this webinar, we have received some questions. So if it's okay with you, Kim, we can go ahead and start diving into those.
Absolutely.
So the first one is in regards to AP credits, which I know you covered, I think, after this question, but still just to highlight it. So if a student is exempt out of a certain class because of their AP exam, should they take it again if they are pre-med?
Yeah, good. It's good to think about that. And I want to clarify some of the wording of the question. So there's a difference between if you are exempt from taking a course or if you got credit for the course. If you are exempt, that means that there will be nothing on your transcript. You just don't have to take that course. And your future health profession program is going to want to see something on your transcript. So anything that shows up as an exemption will not count for a prerequisite. But if it shows up for credit on your transcript, then you actually get to make that decision. And how I would recommend you make that decision is based on your confidence in your understanding of the material. So I'm going to use the chemistry example again. A number of folks take the AP chemistry exam. Not everybody takes it or has access to it, but if you did take it and you feel like I have a really strong foundation in chemistry, I feel comfortable moving on to the next section in chemistry, and I'm going to be ready for my entrance exam, like the MCAT exam that will take place in my 3rd or 4th year, then go right ahead. Use that AP credit to count as your chemistry class, and maybe consider taking biology in your very first semester. If you say, gosh, I really enjoyed chemistry, I feel like I did a good job, but I would like to have a stronger foundation at UVA, then you can forego the AP credit and take the class. That will help you get to know the sciences at UVA, help you understand what it's like to take a very large class. And so there are definitely options, and we need to leave it up to you to assess where you think you're going to be what's going to be the most beneficial for you. I will give one more little caveat on chemistry is that even if you got credit for AP, you probably, very few people get credit for AP chemistry lab. And so it may be that you got credit for the lecture, but not for the lab. I would highly encourage you to take the lab course while you're still close to that chemistry content. With biology, if you got credit for biology AP, it actually counts for both the lecture and the lab because it's together in one course. And so you don't need to worry about taking that lab separately. With chemistry and with physics, the lab is separate.
So our next question is more of just a general question or clarifying question. Is pre-health the same as pre-med?
So pre-health is a wider lens. And so pre-health includes lots of other health professions that are not medicine. So you can go to a podiatric medical school, which is podiatry. It is focused on feet only. Actually, different podiatry schools focus on different areas. It could go all the way up to the knee. There's optometry school, dental school, pharmacy school, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and the list goes on. Physician associate is a very popular, used to be called physician assistant. They just went through a change in their professional name. And we have a lot of students at UVA who go on to become physician associates. So you will hear the terms be used interchangeably, but pre-health has a wider lens.
So the next question is about courses. So which math courses do pre-health students typically take?
Great. So, and it specifically says pre-health or pre-med? Sorry, I missed
Pre-health.
Pre-health. Okay, so most programs will require 2 math classes. So if for any of the professions that I've listed, they'll require 2 math classes. It used to be that a lot of medical schools required 2 calculus, but the last holdout, which was Harvard, said we will accept statistics as your second math class instead of a second calculus. So my strong recommendation for anyone who's interested in the health professions is to take 1 calculus class and 1 statistics class. However, if you are majoring in something that requires more than 2 classes or requires more than 1 calculus class, you would need to keep that in mind for your major. What we pre-health advisors are advising on is specifically for prerequisites for getting into the health profession program. And you also need to keep an eye on those prerequisites for your major.
And this is another kind of clarifying question, but do we have to, or does a student have to apply to join pre-health?
Nope. Anybody, everyone is welcome to join pre-health. Officially, the way you join is to sign up for the newsletter. And I'll go back to that QR code just in case. And so this is how we know that you are a part of the pre-health community. And we will be sending information out, as I mentioned earlier. There's no formal track. The registrar's office isn't tracking your courses. And so we as pre-health advisors work with you to make sure that you're on track.
Awesome. And then based on some of the questions I'm reading, if you could clarify for students the structure of chemistry and biology, since both of them are a year and only certain courses are offered in certain semesters.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, and physics, each of those is a 2-semester sequence. And for most students, I'll say engineering is different, but for most students outside of engineering, all of the first semester of the sequence is in fall, and the second semester of the sequence is in spring. So biology 1, chemistry 1, physics 1 are all in fall, and biology 2, chemistry 2, physics 2 are all in spring. Okay, and for most of those, you have to take 1 before you take 2. So if you're trying to get your head around this, write it down. So all the 1s are in fall, all the 2s are in spring. For biology only, you can actually take biology 2 before you take biology 1. But for all of the other, you need to take 1 before you take 2. And let me give you an example of why that might be helpful to know. Some folks who are excited, they love science, but they are attentive to what's going to be in their best interest to make good decisions, to be academically prepared, may choose to take just 1 science class in their very first semester. So let's say they take chemistry and they're fantastic and they get an A and it's a really good experience. Then in the second semester, even though they haven't taken biology 1, they can take chemistry 2 and biology 2 in their second semester because they can take biology 2 prior to taking biology 1. So some students will do that. Others will take chemistry 1 and 2 in their first year and then combine organic chemistry and biology in their second year. Excuse me, I also want to just mention, so one of the things that often happens in this webinar is there'll be a number of you who are attending the webinar who have very specific scenarios to your own situation, your own case. And this will be a place where it'll be important for you to touch base with a pre-health advisor during course registration in orientation. And we can walk you through your very specific scenario. And so Lauren's trying to kind of take big overarching themes here.
Yes, thank you, Kim. So yes, we will definitely help with more particular questions and advising sessions. So our next general question is, how easy is it to gain shadowing and/or volunteering experience at UVA?
So it's a great idea to get some clinical experience early on. We recommend getting some clinical experience at least before you start your second year at UVA. And so I would say that the majority, higher than 50% of pre-health students will sign up for volunteering with Madison House in their first year. So to do so, you have to be ready, you have to be on the ball. Madison House typically within the first Sunday of classes will have a session on how to volunteer, and you have to be at that session in order to volunteer anytime during your first year. So that's an important thing to keep in mind if you want to volunteer in medical services through Madison House. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah just put Madison House's website in the chat. Be sure to check in at that orientation right when you start. And shadowing. So we have some shadowing at UVA, but it's been very, very spotty since COVID. And so we don't know what that's going to look like in the fall just yet because there's limit to visitors in the medical center. So what I would recommend in regard to shadowing is keep an eye on the Pre-Health Pulse newsletter, again, pointing out the QR code, and keep an eye on the Pre-Health Pulse newsletter for shadowing opportunities. Highly recommend the volunteering opportunities through Madison House, and we will have additional opportunities to have student jobs or other engagements that are in a clinical setting throughout your first year and beyond. I'm just getting a note that there are a few folks out there who are transfer students. And so this is your first semester coming into UVA, and it can be particularly challenging because you already have a lot of those pre-health prerequisites under your belt. I would say that it would be important for transfer students to schedule an appointment with a pre-health advisor during the month of August to make sure you're on track for looking at your 4 years and preparing, since you only actually will have either 2 or 3 years at UVA. And so make sure that you set up a pre-health advising appointment in August and or talk to a pre-health advisor during your transfer orientation. One of the biggest challenges for transfer students is if you've had a long record of success at other schools and you jump into 2 or more pre-health prerequisite courses right as you start UVA, that sometimes can be can present challenges for students who are in their very first semester at UVA. And it's certainly tempting because you have a long track record of success and you know that you can do it. The challenge comes when you're trying to balance that along with all of the other new things at UVA, including a large class size, sometimes more challenging to access professors. It's super important to access professors and visit their office hours. I know that it can be intimidating. This isn't just for the transfer students, for you all. Sometimes it's hard to take that first step to go and visit a professor's office hours, but I tell you right now, it will put you on the front lines of folks who are going to be successful in the health professions.
Awesome, thanks, Kim. So then next, it's a two-part question. So is a bridge year the same as a gap year? And what types of experiences can you do over a bridge year?
Yeah, one of my favorite questions. So we use those terms interchangeably, bridge year, gap year. The reason we choose to typically use bridge year is because gap year sounds like a gap, like you're not doing anything. And so we really want to make sure that you are actively engaged and intentional about what you're doing in that bridge from undergraduate to your health professions program. Some of the activities, some of the more, I would say, typical activities are scribing or working as a clinician, a certified nursing assistant or an EMT during a bridge year. So some hands-on clinical work. A number of folks will do some research. A number of folks will engage in some sort of long-term internship or something that they just wouldn't get to do in at another time in life. Like we've had a number of students who've done AmeriCorps, some students who've done Peace Corps, which is longer than one bridge year, that's 2. We have students who've done Teach for America or work with Habitat for Humanity for a year. It really does strengthen your application to kind of give service in that way. And then some of my favorites are a student who took off a year, who used her bridge year to do stand-up comedy across the United States. Another pair of students who bought a bus and drove from Alaska to Argentina. During their bridge year, they stopped along the way to fill out components of their application. And we've had a number of students who have hiked the Appalachian Trail or other long hikes or kind of those once in a lifetime activities. And what we do as pre-health advisors is work with you to look at your overall application, the academic, career, and personal components of your application to say, where can we be strategic and what activities can you engage in that will really strengthen that part of your application? And if all 3 areas are strong, you can do a lot of really cool things. One guy, I think, went on a sailboat where he, sailed from here to Europe for 6 months. And so there's just some really neat things that folks get involved with.
Awesome. And so the next question is related to kind of clinical experience volunteering. Does UVA have any kind of relationship with the local EMS or EMT squads?
Yes. So we have 2 squads, rescue service. It's WARS, which is Western Albemarle Rescue Squad, and CARS, which is Charlottesville Albemarle Rescue Squad. And both do training, and a lot of our students are involved with that. We also, the local fire stations also do training for EMTs, and there's a different vibe for each of those, so getting to know which ones will work for you. We also have students, this is a little bit different, but who scribe in the emergency department at UVA Health, and they can do that for all 4 years. Most students who do that are part-time while they're in class, and then full-time either in the summers or during their bridge year.
And do students have both an academic advisor and a pre-health advisor?
Yes. There is, your academic advisor may have lots of information about pre-health students or zero information about pre-health students, but that's okay because pre-health advisors are there for you and available almost every day. And sometimes our pre-health advisors get booked for a week or 2 out, but we have drop-in hours where students can go to Clemens, the library, any day, Monday through Thursday, to just drop in and talk with a pre-health advisor for kind of quick 15-minute chats, whereas our virtual and in-person scheduled appointments tend to be about 30 minutes long. Later on down the line, when you're in your application process, we also do mock interviews and other personal statement reviews and that kind of thing.
This is a follow-up question that we just got to that is, will both academic and pre-health advisors be there during the orientation advising or just the academic advisors?
So my understanding, and Sarah Dodge, please feel free to jump in if you have additional information on this, but my understanding is that you will be assigned either a 9 a.m., an 11 a.m., or a 1 p.m., something like that, session for course registration. During each of those sessions, there will be a series of professional advisors who will be on hand to help you with registration, to advise you on general education requirements and or additional graduation requirements and that kind of thing. Pre-health advisors will also be on hand and will be wearing t-shirts that say pre-health advising really big so that it's very recognizable which are your go-to people for pre-health. And in addition to that, pre-health advisors are doing a presentation at 2 o'clock on day 2 of orientation, where we will be giving more information about the pre-health experience at UVA beyond courses. So we're there for your course registration, and we will be on hand at the 2 o'clock presentation to kind of give an overview. It won't be the exact same information we're talking about here, although we might touch on some of the similar information. It will be really focused on the career and personal pillars of the pre-health experience.
So one of the other questions that we got is about bridge years. So this individual is asking, why are people that take a bridge year more successful? Is it the extra clinical experience that helps? What makes them have a better chance of being accepted?
Yeah, I'm bringing you back to this slide just to kind of take a look at it. There are a number of different reasons that this may be the case. In part, it is anything that having a little more time can help you strengthen multiple parts of your application. And so maybe you didn't get as much clinical experience prior to the end of 3rd year. And so that additional year of clinical experience will really help you. So the bridge year is actually your application year. So think about it like this. If you are planning to go to, I'm going to use medical school as the example. If you're planning to go to medical school directly after graduation, that means you would apply in May after your 3rd year. You would apply to medical school in the summer after your 3rd year. And throughout your full 4th year, you're engaged with the application process while you're taking classes. As you might imagine, that causes 2 challenges. One is you're both doing classes and involved in the application for your entire 4th year. So you have to kind of split that attention. The other thing is it means you need to have completed all of your prerequisites prior to taking your entrance exam, prior to applying. So that compacts your time that you're able to take all of those prerequisites. So a number of students will start out in their first year planning on applying without a bridge year, and then see the benefit of stretching out their prerequisites throughout 4 years as they go. And so working with a pre-health advisor or just looking at it on your own, you can kind of see the advantage of stretching it out. You're going to have more time for clinical experiences, more time to perhaps do some research, possibly get a publication. And most of the other students who are applying throughout the nation are applying with a bridge year. So they're having that one extra year of experience, whether it be academic experience, research experience, clinical experience, or just living life. And so if you are a third year who, has done all of this already and you feel like you're ready, you can apply after your third year. But most students see the advantage of taking some additional time. So again, pre-health advisors are never going to say, here's what you have to do, but we're going to advise you on what's going to be the most advantageous path for you.
Great. And then we had a question pertaining to documenting your clinical experiences and shadowing experiences. Is there a way that we recommend that students document those?
Yeah, so I recommend keeping your resume up to date. So your resume won't, as a document itself, will not typically be used in the application to health professions programs, but your resume is a good way to document all of the activities you've been involved in throughout your time at UVA. Some of you may already have excellent experience shadowing or doing internships or research during high school, but the health professions programs start at day one of college. And so while they might look at some of the information, some of the things that you did in high school, they're really focused a lot on what you did from when you started college and beyond. And so when you do an activity, even if it's just 4 hours of shadowing one time, have that on your resume. You don't have to use it when you're applying to a part-time job or that kind of thing, but keep a running list of all the activities you're involved in. When you eventually apply, you will need a contact name for every activity you've been involved in. And sometimes students will even put their own contact name. So if the activity is, I've done violin lessons for 12 years, then you might be the contact for that yourself, or it might be your violin teacher. But if you've shadowed, then you'll have the name of the clinician who you shadowed. And if you've done research, you certainly would want the information of the primary investigator for that research. So there's no formal way to document that information, but using your resume as documentation along the way is an excellent way to keep it up to date. All right, we have a few more minutes. Do we have a couple more questions?
Oh, this is one of our more recent questions. Is a good question to ask in terms of experience. So do students' hours that they've earned in high school count towards their medical school application, or do those hours restart once they are in college?
So it is interesting because it does restart. And I'll give everybody the hint that I give folks when I talk with you one-on-one is, if you've been shadowing, for example, or you've been an EMT during high school, I recommend that you do a little bit more of that same thing next summer after you've already started college. And the reason that I recommend that is, or during the year, is because if you have done it during your college experience, you can backdate to when you first started. But if you only did it in high school and then you moved on to different activities, then they typically don't look at what you just did in high school. And so it's nice to have some continuity, but if you have new and really cool opportunities, I mean, you will have new and really cool opportunities at UVA, it's okay to just document what you've had in college.
Awesome.
So as Lauren just put in the chat, super individual questions that you have about, should I take this course or that course, or what do you recommend? A lot of the answers that we're going to have is, it depends. And so what I recommend that you do is you make a pros and cons list. If, for example, if your question is, should I take chemistry or biology? You make a pros and cons list now. You make a plan for what you think you want to do. This is taking ownership of your own experience. And then you touch base with an advisor when you get to grounds for orientation and you say, I think I want to take chemistry because chemistry has a 5-semester sequence of Chem 1, Chem 2, Orgo 1, Orgo 2, biochemistry. But I also see the advantage of taking biology. Am I on the right track? And an advisor can talk with you about that. But first, have an opinion. So go ahead and make a decision what you think is best, and then ask the question, and an advisor will give you honest information if they say, oh, actually, here's another consideration that you might not have yet. But oftentimes your intuition, your investigation is going to be very helpful in this process. One last question.
Let's see. So we have a question about how do you balance it all between your major, your pre-health prerequisites, and other requirements? How do you manage that within your schedule?
Yeah, that's a really important thing to be thinking about. And the number one thing is, don't forget to breathe. So don't forget to remember that you are a living human being who has lots of components, that it's not just about academics. And that might sound cheesy, but it's really important to remind yourself as you go through. There are, as we mentioned early on, and I'm going to bring us back to this slide, there are, sorry to run through a whole bunch of slides right here, but there are so many advisors that you will be working with at the University of Virginia. You keep your information, remember, take ownership of your own experience. You keep your information documented, whether it's in an Excel spreadsheet or a handwritten notebook, whatever it is, and know that you will have graduation requirements, you will have major requirements, you will have general education requirements and pre-health requirements. You might also have some classes that you'll take for a minor or something like that. All of those will have different advisors associated with them. And there you will be able to make it work within your 4-year plan. But the more that you talk with advisors, get the right information, be proactive in talking with folks, talk with peers or orientation leaders about their experience. And the more you do that, the more that you will see the pieces fitting together as you go. And so take a stab at it at the beginning. Like, here are the courses I think I want to take in the first semester. That's all you need to think about for your very first semester. You will not preclude yourself from going into any health profession program by making any kind of registration mistake. And there's no mistakes. You don't have to take any pre-health courses in your very first semester. You can still go on to medical school, dental school, pharmacy school, etc. And we can help you do that. You don't actually have to decide about being pre-health until later on, and we can help you do that. And so you have this network of advisors who are here for you, who are going to support you throughout your experience. My high recommendation is really focus on the very first semester when you're talking to folks in orientation. Get to know who your point people are and engage with advisors throughout the time. So thank you all so much for being here. Really look forward to meeting you in person as we go. And Sarah, is there any last minute things we want to make sure to remind folks before we end?
No, thank you to both of you for your presentation. Just so folks know, we'll have this recording up within the week. It will be on orientation.virginia.edu. There will be a page that we call Wednesday webinars, and that will house all of our webinars as they occur over the course of the summer. So keep an eye on our website for that. And then if you all have any questions related to orientation, new student programs, or transition at large, obviously feel free to email us at orientation@virginia.edu. But that's it for tonight. Kim, Lauren, thank you so much for your expertise in this area. We'll see you again in July at summer orientation, and definitely look forward to many of these students meeting you in the fall as well. Everybody else, have a good rest of your night and a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next week for our Wednesday webinar. Have a good one, y'all.
Bye-bye.